Timmy was the poorest boy in his village. His life was a daily struggle. His clothes were old, torn, and full of patches, while his shoes were so worn out that they barely covered his feet. Every morning, Timmy woke up with an empty stomach and no hope for breakfast. He worked odd jobs for small wages, but it was never enough to eat 3 square meals a day. The villagers teased him constantly, calling him names like Timmy the Ragged and Hungry Timmy. No one wanted to be his friend because they were ashamed to be seen with him. Sometimes after Timmy finishes clearing the farm for Mama Grace, she will give him very little money that would barely feed him twice a day. The girls in the village laughed at him whenever he walked by. Some would whisper behind his back, "Who would ever marry someone like Timmy?" Their words pierced his heart, but he never showed his pain. One evening, as the sun set over the dusty village, Timmy sat under a tree and made a decision. "I will leave this place," he said to himself. "I will go to the city and make money. One day, I will return rich, and they will all respect me." Early the next morning, Timmy packed his few belongings into a small bag. He had just enough money for a one-way bus ticket to the city. As the bus drove away, he looked back at his village, vowing to come back one day as a different man. The city was loud and full of people. Timmy was amazed by the tall buildings, flashy cars, and busy streets. But life in the city was not easy for a poor boy with no education or skills. Timmy struggled to find work. He cleaned houses, washed cars, and even carried heavy loads at the market. Each day, he worked until his back ached, but the money he earned was barely enough for food. Some nights, he slept on the streets, cold and hungry. Despite the hardship, Timmy refused to give up. "I will succeed," he whispered to himself each night. "I just need one chance to prove myself." One afternoon, while Timmy was walking in the market, he saw a man step out of a shiny black car. The man was well dressed, with gold rings on his fingers and a confident smile on his face. Timmy couldn't take his eyes off him. "If only I could be like him," he thought. When the man noticed Timmy staring, he smiled and said, "Young man, do you want to make cool cash just like me?" Timmy quickly nodded. "Yes, sir," he said eagerly. The man handed him a card with his name and phone number on it. "Call me when you're ready to change your life," he said before walking away. Timmy held the card tightly, his heart racing. This was the chance he had been waiting for, but he had no idea what it would cost him. After days of thinking, Timmy decided to call the number. The wealthy man, who introduced himself as Mr. Douglas, invited Timmy to his mansion. When Timmy arrived, he was awestruck by the luxurious house filled with sparkling chandeliers, expensive furniture, and marble floors. Mr. Douglas welcomed him warmly and offered him a drink. "You want to be rich?" Mr. Douglas asked. Timmy nodded quickly. "Then listen carefully," Mr. Douglas said, lowering his voice. "There's a price for everything in life. To keep the money flowing, you must sacrifice one young woman every 10 days to our grandmaster." Timmy's heart raced. He felt scared but also tempted. After a long silence, he agreed. He told himself that the end justifies the means. Timmy's first sacrifice was the hardest. Mr. Douglas guided him through the ritual, assuring him that it was necessary to unlock the wealth he desired. Timmy lured a young woman into a trap, and before he could change his mind, the ritual was completed. That night, Timmy couldn't sleep. He kept hearing her screams in his head. But the next morning, a large sum of money appeared in his account. The guilt began to fade as Timmy started spending the money. He bought new clothes, shoes, and even rented a small apartment. People in the city began to notice him, and Timmy felt his confidence growing. This is only the beginning, he thought to himself. Timmy's life changed completely. He no longer wore shabby clothes or walked around looking hungry. Instead, he was dressed in designer suits, driving expensive cars, and living in a luxurious mansion. The same people who once ignored him now wanted to be his friends. Girls followed him wherever he went, admiring his wealth and charm. At first, Timmy enjoyed the attention. He threw parties, showered people with gifts, and became the center of attraction. But deep inside, he knew that his newfound wealth came at a terrible cost. Every 10 days, he had to make another sacrifice. The rituals left him feeling empty, but he convinced himself that it was worth it. After months of living in luxury, Timmy decided to visit his village. He wanted to show everyone how far he had come. As he drove into the village in his shiny black car, the entire community gathered to see him. They couldn't believe their eyes. The same Timmy they had mocked for being poor now looked like a king. He handed out money to the villagers, tossing bundles of cash as if it were nothing. Women who had once laughed at him now begged for his attention, and the men showered him with praises. But Timmy wore a mask of confidence, hiding the darkness within. He smiled at their praises, but deep down, he knew that his success came at a price that he could never confess. Back in the city, Timmy's lifestyle became even more extravagant. Every night, he visited the most popular clubs, where girls flocked to his side. They fought for his attention, hoping to win his heart, or at least his money. Timmy would spray cash on the dance floor, causing chaos as people scrambled to pick up the bills. To the outside world, Timmy was a successful bachelor living his best life. But to himself, he was a man chained by his secret deal. Each time he laughed or danced in the club, he felt the weight of his next sacrifice looming over him. He drank heavily to drown his guilt, but it always returned, stronger than before. Over time, people in the village began to notice a disturbing pattern. Young women would visit Timmy's mansion, but some of them never returned. Families reported their daughters missing, and whispers spread that something strange was happening. Timmy, however, was careful to cover his tracks. The sacrifices continued, and with each one, Timmy's wealth grew. He bought more cars, jewelry, and properties. But he could not escape the growing tension around him. The missing girls haunted his dreams, and the community's suspicions began to close in on him. One night, Timmy invited a young woman named Bola to his mansion. She was beautiful, charming, and completely unaware of the danger she was in. Timmy prepared for the ritual as usual, but Bola accidentally walked into the room where the sacrifices took place. What she saw made her blood run cold, the human head in the freezer. Bola screamed, and Timmy rushed into the room. In a panic, he grabbed her and tried to calm her down, but she struggled to escape. Fear clouded Timmy's judgment, and he killed her to protect his secret. This incident shook him deeply, but he convinced himself it was necessary to keep his wealth intact. Timmy's life took a dangerous turn one day when his fiancée, Amoka, decided to give him a surprise visit. She had always admired Timmy's success and believed he was the perfect man. But as she explored his mansion, she stumbled upon the forbidden room. Inside, she found the freezer and opened it out of curiosity. Amoka froze in horror at the sight of human heads inside. She quickly took a picture with her phone and texted it to her sister, warning her that she might not survive the night. Before Amoka could leave, Timmy returned home. Realizing what she had discovered, he knew he had to act fast. Amoka tried to act normal, but Timmy could sense her fear. As soon as she found an opportunity, she ran out of the house. Timmy chased after her, yelling for her to stop. Amoka managed to escape the mansion and call her sister, begging her to come with the police. Timmy, however, was determined not to let his secret be exposed. He searched the streets for Amoka, but she had disappeared into the night. His heart pounded as he realized that his perfect life was about to crumble. The next morning, Amoka's sister arrived at Timmy's mansion with the police. They banged on the door, demanding to be let in. Timmy tried to act calm, but he knew there was no way to hide the evidence. The police searched the house and found Amoka unconscious in one of the rooms. When they opened the freezer, the horrifying truth was revealed. Inside were the heads of Timmy's previous sacrifices. The police arrested Timmy on the spot, and the news spread like wildfire. The man everyone admired was now exposed as a murderer. Timmy's trial became the talk of the town. People who once praised him now called him a monster. Families of the missing girls came forward, demanding justice. Timmy sat in the courtroom, his once confident demeanor replaced by fear and regret. Amoka testified against him, recounting everything she had seen. The evidence was overwhelming, and Timmy had no defense. He was sentenced to life in prison, and the wealth he had sacrificed so much for was stripped away. In prison, Timmy was no longer the wealthy bachelor everyone admired. He was just another inmate, haunted by his past. The other prisoners mocked him, and he spent most of his days alone, replaying his choices in his mind. The wealth he had gained felt meaningless now. He realized too late that his greed had destroyed not only his life but the lives of countless others. News of Timmy's arrest and the horrifying details of his crimes reached his village. The same people who had once mocked him and later praised him were now speechless. They gathered in groups, discussing the shocking revelation. How could Timmy, of all people, do such a thing? One elder asked. The women, who had fought for his attention, now wept in shame. His actions left the entire community divided. Some blamed poverty for driving him to such extremes, while others believed his greed and pride led him down the dark path. The families of the missing girls finally found closure. Though their pain remained, knowing the truth about what happened to their loved ones brought some relief. They held memorials to honor the victims, and the city mourned together. Amoka's bravery was celebrated. She had risked her life to expose Timmy's crimes, and her actions saved countless others from becoming victims. However, she struggled with the trauma of what she had seen and experienced. Her sister and the community rallied around her, offering their support. In the solitude of his prison cell, Timmy was left to confront his guilt. He thought about the sacrifices he had made and the lives he had destroyed. The wealth and luxury he once enjoyed now felt like a distant, hollow memory. He wrote letters to the families of his victims, apologizing for his actions. Though he knew no apology could undo the damage, he hoped to find some redemption in expressing his remorse. Timmy also began to reflect on the pressures of societal expectations and the decisions that had led him to this point. Amoka struggled to move on from her ordeal. The image of the freezer haunted her dreams, and she found it difficult to trust anyone. However, she decided to channel her pain into something positive. She started a foundation in honor of the victims, raising awareness about the dangers of greed and the importance of mental health. Through her efforts, she became a voice for young women, encouraging them to value themselves beyond material wealth. Amoka's foundation grew, and her story inspired others to speak up against societal pressures and harmful practices. Timmy's story became a cautionary tale for the community. Parents used his downfall as a lesson for their children, warning them about the dangers of greed and the importance of hard work and integrity. The village, once blinded by Timmy's wealth, now valued character over material success. Though Timmy remained in prison, his story continued to impact lives. His rise and fall served as a reminder that true success comes from honesty, perseverance, and respect for others. The scars he left on the community began to heal, but the lessons he taught would never be forgotten. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an exciting new story. Your support means a lot, and I look forward to sharing more captivating tales with you. See you in the next video.